now we're talking about the gray fox. The gray fox, what's his job? Look at his tools again. They're similar to the red foxes, aren't they? He's a carnivore. He's also a predator, right? Gray fox. Now, what's he do for a living? Same thing as a red fox, right? Does the same thing. His job is to catch and eat smaller animals, especially mice. So they're both working together. But what happens, like when you and your buddy wanna, what would they want? I was going to say there was a hoagie there, and you and your buddy wanted to eat this hoagie, and but there was only one. What would happen? Okay, you'd split it, or you'd probably eat it. Even if you, or you would eat it, right? So the thing is that you would argue a little bit over it. Even if you split it up, you'd probably say, hey, you got a bigger piece than me, you know. So that's the way these animals are. They both eat the same food, so to speak. They do the same job, use the same tools, but yet they don't directly compete with one another for a reason that we've already talked about. Anybody know what that might be? How do you suppose nature's provided that the red and the gray fox can both eat the same kind of food and do the same job and use the same tools, but not directly compete with one another? How do you suppose nature's arranged for that to happen? Habitat. Very good. Habitat. The red and the gray fox live in different habitats. Not all teachers live here in Lewisburg or teach here in Lewisburg. Some teach in Middleburg and so on around the country. So that's the way it is with these foxes. They live in different habitats, although they do the same job and eat the same food. So that way nature can provide twice as many species. Remember, the more species we have, the better off we are. The more species out there in the natural community, the more stable the natural community is, and the better we are, because that natural community is serving us. So these animals don't compete because of different habitats. Yeah. The next one.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Yep, number 4. Anybody guess what number 4 was? That lady back there. What did you say first?
Possum.
A possum. This is the skull of the opossum. This is the skull of the opossum. And you can see it's about the same size. It almost looks like a gray fox's skull, right? It's about the same size as a gray fox. But if you looked at the gray fox, if you look closely at these two skulls laying beside each other, you'll find that the brain in the gray fox is much larger than the brain was in an opossum. Opossums are very primitive animals. They've been around since the dinosaurs were living here.
They're the lovely things you see with the eyes glowing.
There they are. And so what do you think the opossum's job is? He eats meat. He's got the meat eater type tool. But he's unique in Pennsylvania, the opossum. Anybody know why an opossum is unique? You know, unique means different, one at a time, whatever. Anybody know why? Come on. Well, that's true. They're scavengers, as opposed to, they like to eat a lot of dead meat, carrion we call it. And they'll eat some live critters if they can catch them. You know, eggs and baby rabbits and baby birds and stuff. But they also, they eat a lot of dead meat. So they're one of the garbage men in nature. But they're also the only marsupial. You know what a marsupial is? Anybody know? Right. Their babies are born way prematurely. Only like in a couple of weeks the babies are born, and then they crawl up the hair on the animal's stomach and crawl into a pouch and attach themselves to teeth in the pouch, and then they stay there for the rest of their development. So, and when they're born, you can I forget now the number, but like you could get 20 or 30 or 40 of them on a tablespoon, you know, the babies, because they're that small when they're born, but then they finish their development in this pouch. The opossum is the only marsupial found in the wild here in Pennsylvania. But his job is, he's one of the garbage men. You know, in our communities, what would happen, talking about animals becoming extinct, now if all opossums became extinct, would you care? Probably not a lot, right? But in our communities, what would happen if all garbage men, those people who go around and collect our garbage, what would happen if they became extinct?
So much faster.
We would, we'd probably want to move a lot, right? Because the garbage would pile up and it'd cause health problems and everything else. So even if you're a garbage man, you have an important job in our community. And the opossum has an important job in the natural community. Him along with there are a bunch of other critters that help him in that job, like vultures and stuff like that, flies and maggots, and, maggots and flies.
This wasn't on the list.
Okay,
I don't have a picture.
this wasn't on your list, so we don't have a picture, but this is just the skull of a porcupine. And porcupines are rodents. We'll talk about some of the other rodents here in a minute.
Have you ever saw Homeward Bound? So that movie
Oh, the dog
and
is
the dog is the porcupine club.
Okay, this is the skull of a meat eater. We can tell he's a meat eater by looking at his skull or the tools he uses. But this animal lives in and around the water a lot. It's an otter, a river otter. And
So this is number 6, actually, under paper.
Wait, what's number 5?
We didn't do number 5 yet. This is
So-
number 6.
so otters, they eat the, do you have a picture? No? Okay. Otters, they have other tools too. They have thick fur that allows them to live in the cold water and you've probably all seen on TV or on wildlife shows and stuff, otters. They usually show them because they seem like happy-go-lucky critters that are sliding in the snow and all that sort of thing. But they have their job and they eat a lot of fish,
Actually, there's that picture of them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so anyway, that's the otter. And then there are, bring the next two.
Alright. 7 and 8.
Because 7 and 8, these animals are actually in the same family. If you looked at those skulls and looked close enough and took enough time to look, you'll see that these two skulls look almost exactly like that otter skull, only they're smaller. This is smaller and this is smaller yet. And the reason for that is that these animals are closely related. A skunk skull would look a lot like this because they're all in the same family. The otter and this animal is a mink. I mean, this is the skull of a mink, and this is the skull of a weasel. Now they have similar tools. They're different size. They do different size jobs. They eat different critters. They live in different habitats. And so but they are meat-eating type animals. Like a weasel, I've read accounts, I've never seen it personally, but I've read accounts where a weasel, this little animal, would attack like a fawn deer, be trying to subdue a fawn deer. So,
Is that the color of weasels?
yeah, that's, well, these weasels, lots of times the weasels will change color in the wintertime. They change from this brown color to white, and then they call ermine. They're white with, usually have a black tip on the end of the tail.
This is number 9. This is
Okay.
which one or not.
Well, we don't. This was number 9, if you looked at it, it's a bobcat. It's called a bobcat. So here again, we have domestic cats, but we also have bobcats, or different types of cats living in the wild. Bobcat, just recently, a fellow showed me a picture, just up in Snyder County, or not Snyder, but Center County. There was these people, and they were at their cabin, and they saw this fawn deer come out in their backyard of their cabin, and so they got their camera and they got it all set up, ready to take a picture of this fawn deer. And just before they did, just when they were ready to snap a picture, a bobcat came out and killed the deer right in front of their camera. And it killed it just like a mountain lion, or just like the lion. And you see where the lion comes out and grabs the zebra by the throat, or whatever animal, impala or whatever. Hopefully you've seen that on TV, or and that's just the way this bobcat did. He grabbed the deer by the throat and didn't let go until the deer suffocated or whatever, and then drug the thong.